All right, welcome back to your second set of notes. All right, so let's look at how we analyze the market mechanisms in supply and demand. All right, the two curves intersect at the equilibrium or market clearing price and quantity. So the equilibrium is the equilibrium point of the price in which the supply and demand curves are equal. All right, at the price P0 in the figure, the quantity demand are just and equal to the quantity supplied. So P0 and Q0 is the equilibrium point. Quantity demand equals quantity supplied. You see that above the quantity demand point and where the quantity demand point and the quantity supply point meet, every sort of the price above that, because of the fact that there is above the equilibrium point, this is where there's a surplus. All right, below the equilibrium point, you know that there is a shortage. So when you see the graph there, above the equilibrium point is a surplus, and below the equilibrium point is a shortage. All right, the market mechanism has a tendency in the free market for the prices to change until the market clears, i.e., the quantity of goods supplied and quantity of goods demanded are equal. At this point, because there's no excess demand, no excess supply, there is no pressure for the price to change. So because you see that there's no excess supply, there's no excess demand, there is no need for the price to change. But you'll always know that in a market, supply and demand do not always sit at equilibrium. Some sort of markets, they don't clear quickly when conditions change suddenly. So there's a tendency, however, that the market will correct itself, but you would see that this might take time. So for instance, if you see the curve that you have the surplus up there, shortage down here, and you see that when the price increases up, so at P1, you will see that if the price goes up to P1, then the quantity supplied, you would note that it is basically when the price goes up, people will demand less of that good. So if the price goes up, you will see that people will demand less of that good. But if the price comes down, you will see that people would demand more of that good. So the price sort of determines what happens. So to sell its surplus, or at least to prevent it from growing, producers would begin to lower prices. Eventually, as price fall, quantity demanded would increase and quantity supplied would decrease until the equilibrium price PO was reached. All right, so I will pay attention carefully. So let's say that there was a surplus of goods. So where there's P1 there is a surplus there. So when there's a surplus, you know that producers will know that they have a surplus of a good there. So for instance, let's say the government subsidizes the cost of potato fertilizers in Yalu Pangia district because of the cooked chips factory in Pangia. So what happens is that if they sort of subsidize a cost of production or the cost of growing potatoes like fertilizers, which cost a lot of money, you would see that more people would start planting potatoes to sell. Now, when they start planting potatoes to sell and you have more potatoes there, you would see that it creates a surplus. All right, when the surplus is created, these goods like potatoes, eventually they rot and then you get no value out of it. As a result, to sort of counter that surplus in potatoes, the producers must now try to drop their price. So at the surplus, where you see the surplus on the graph, they will drop the price. As when they drop the price, you will see that consumers will start consuming more. So as soon as surplus comes down and consumers come down, consumers' demand go up, they will meet and create a new equilibrium. So when this happens, that is where the forces of supply and demand, the invisible end of the market, sort of aligns itself to correct the market as it is. So it's the invisible end of the market at play here. So when you look at that example, for instance, in the case of demand, shortage. So when there's a shortage here, you would see that when there's a shortage of a good, what they will do is the sellers will try to increase the price. So when there's a shortage of a good, the sellers will try to basically increase the price so that when the price goes up, less people are demanding the good, and then supply and demand meet at equilibrium. All right, I hope those points are clear. So if you look at the next slide, it basically uh, explains what I just covered. The opposite of a surplus is a shortage. So a shortage is a situation in which the quantity demanded exceeds the quantity supplied. So this would develop and consumers will be unable to purchase all they would like. So if that happens, it puts an upward pressure on the price as consumers try to outbid one another for existing supplies, and producers react to this by increasing surplus and expanding output. As a result, when you see that there's a price war and people trying to pay more, you will see that these existing supplies, the producers will try to increase the supplies, and it will take it to equilibrium. All right. So that's what I've explained. All right. It will put an upward pressure on consumers try to outbid one another, and then again, it will move up. So when you see the forces of supply and demand, they work differently in a market mechanism. The equilibrium point is where supply equals demand. Above the equilibrium is where there's a surplus. Below the equilibrium, where supply meets demand, it's where there's a shortage. So if there's a surplus, the market will adjust itself in a downward push so that the price comes down so that supply and demand can be restored to equilibrium. If there's a shortage, there's an upward pressure, upward push, so that the bidding war of prices, when consumers try to outbid each other, prices increase. As a result, when prices increase, you know that supply also increases, and that's where they will reach equilibrium. All right, I hope that's clear. That's the video on market forces of supply and demand. So it's a short topic as part of supply and demand. So it's going to be only 2 sets of lecture notes. All right, thank you very much. We will now go on to look at the next topic, which would be production. Thank you.